Hello everyone, welcome to the final day of the World Magic Cup 2017. Rich Hagen alongside Maria Bartholdi and Matej Big Z Zadelkai. We have an action-packed top 8 for you. You will not miss a thing. All 4 quarterfinals, both semi-finals, of course. The final live here from Nice in France. We're on the French Riviera where millionaires are born, not made. And today we'll see who is the latest country to add their name to a roster of champions. Let's be honest, guys, we have a pretty spectacular top 8. Maria, what a couple of days it's been.
It's been fantastic, Rich. You know, this is my first time kind of really experiencing the World Magic Cup, and it's been wonderful. All the teams, 73 different countries coming here representing their home nation and battling it out, and all the while having a great time doing it. I've never seen a tournament where more people were just having a good time playing Magic.
For sure. Now, Matej, the structure of this tournament means that there are lots of stumbling blocks along the way. You can have a bad sealed pool on day 1. You can get the bad matchups later in day 1. You get a tough pool at the start of day 2. You lose once and then get beaten by a better team, you're done. There are so many ways to not reach the top 8 of this tournament. We really have got a spectacular lineup, all things considered.
Yeah, and Maria, you said it was your first. I was here since the start. I was at the first World Magic Cup, all up till as a spectator, as a player, or here on the coverage booth, which I really, really enjoy. And I have to say, I think this is the best top 8 we had so far.
I think it probably is. Why don't we take a look at the bracket for you? We'll show you what's coming your way, and we're going to do it in production order. So at the top of the bracket, Germany face Slovakia. That's Marc Tobiasch and the team up against Ivan Floch captaining Slovakia. Then once they're done, they've played their best 2 matches out of 3. It'll be time for Wales against Poland. The Red Dragon of Wales up against Kazmarczyk and Kowalski and Piotr Glogowski for Poland. Well, then it's the giants left in the building. It's Japan. It's Shota Yasuoka, Yuya Watanabe, and Kenta Harada. They're up against the Austrians, twice finalists in 2007 and 2009 in the Old Worlds competition. A decade on, can Oliver Polak-Rotman and the team go one better? And then to take us up to lunchtime, 3 times in a row now, Italy have made the top 8. Andrea Mengucci's been there for all 3. Can he and Mattia Rizzi and Adriano Moscato claim a title? Well, they'll have to get past China in their first top 8, and it was their first day 2 even. Just great stories everywhere you look. We're going to start, though, at the top of the bracket with quarterfinal 1, which is setting up behind us. This is Germany against Slovakia. Maria.
All right, so Team Germany, there you see them there on your screen. Captain Marc Tobiasch, Philipp Krieger, and Moritz Templin, Pro Tour top 8s, 1 under their belt, 14 PT top 8s, win percentage 56%, 1 Grand Prix top 8, 93 Grand Prix between the 3 of them. Marc is bringing a really cool deck to this tournament. I know that you liked it so much as well, Matej. So let's take a look at what decks we're going to see from Germany. First off, Philipp Krieger, Mardu Vehicles. How do you like this build, Matej?
No, just keep going through. That's Mardu Vehicles. What else have we got? Marc Tobiasch there's his 4-color control deck. There's Moritz Templin's Ramunaps Red. Those are the 3 decks we've got. And I know that the 2 of you want to talk about one particular deck.
Yeah, 4-color control.
Yeah, it's 4-color control, but we also call it 4-color energy control, just because it's such a unique build. And this is basically Marc Tobiasch's pet deck. I would say he brought it to GP in Warsaw a few weeks ago, and while he didn't top it, he went very deep, and he impressed a lot of people with this particular build. And what differentiates it from traditional energy deck is that he has more counterspells in general, more instants, and he's topping his curve off with Torrential Gearhulk and a little bit of a greedy mana base. It's 4 colors, but those Gearhulks are something that is to be feared.
I was talking to Marc about this deck yesterday. We did kind of an inside standard look at it, and he said he really liked it because it was kind of a combination between a mid-range deck and a control deck, and it had aggro deck. Like, it can play the field however it wants, Matej, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's a very big advantage, but it usually is going to play the control route whenever it can, and it definitely can get to the late game just once those Gearhulks start coming in. Like, you know that Marc's winning.
All right, so that's the German side. Why don't we take a look at Team Slovakia? You've got captain Ivan Floch in the centre there, surrounded by Snoha and Ondrej Kedrovic. This is very much a 1+2 team, if you like. Ivan Floch is clearly the team leader, not just the captain, but all 3 Pro Tour top 8s belong to him, and the Grand Prix top 8s as well. And so we're going to walk you nice and carefully through the 3 deck lists here. In the first seat, we're going to have Snoha. So this is a white-blue gift deck, plenty of those early creatures. You've got your Sacred Cats, your Minister of Inquiries, Charter Course, Strategic Planning, Sorcerer Refurbish key card there. You got your God Pharaoh's Gift, of course, where the gift comes from in the name. In the middle seat, it's Ivan Floch. Now, Ivan Floch is playing one of the traditional decks in Standard, because every team could play one Team or Energy deck if they wanted in this unified Standard format. So all the old favourites, you've got your Servant of the Conduit, your Rogue Refiner, your Whirl of Virtuosa, your Glory Bringers, your Long Tusk Cubs, and of course Attune with Ether, which has to be one of the most common and prevalent openings in Magic in 2017. And then the third player on the team, this is Ondrej Kedrovic, and he's playing Mardu Vehicles. Now, Matej, Mardu Vehicles is a deck that we talk about at previous shows. Not super popular, not always clear why it's a good choice, but every so often it turns out to be a very good choice.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it's both teams actually have a Mardu Vehicles player. This deck wasn't very represented in field, but the conversion rate is fantastic. But the fun one that I wanted to highlight here is that this Mardu Vehicles list has 4 Hazard Deferment. Of course, the Germans couldn't do it because they have a Ramunaps red deck player and a Mardu Vehicles deck, so only one of them can play the Hazards, while Ondrej Kedrovic could just jam all the powerful red cards for his deck.
So is that something we're going to want to watch out for during this matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very important.
All right, now today, if you are just joining us, remember this is all about matchups, because Seat A will play Seat A, Seat B against B, C against C. You don't choose your matchup, you're just lined up against an opponent, and you need 2 out of 3. So here you can see this is the lineup that we're going to have. So let's start with Seat A, Matej. The national champion for Germany, Philipp Krieger, with his Mardu Vehicles list, up against Snoha, national champion, with white-blue gift. How do you see this one?
Yeah, I've talked to both teams about the particular matchups, and I know that Slovakia is not feeling very, very good in this one. In particular, they said the Mardu Vehicles list of Philipp Krieger is pretty well set up against what Snoha is bringing to the table. Heart of Kirin, they mentioned specifically as a big problem, and combined with the fact that because of a lot of planeswalkers, the Mardu Vehicles list plays Gideon of the Trials. They're worried that not only will the Germans be able to attack with the Heart of Kirin, but also block with it, which is quite a bit of a problem if you're trying to be an aggressive deck.
Okay, what's going on in Seat B, Marie?
All right, so Seat B, this is a seat we're going to want to watch. I know, Matej, you were saying you're waiting for this matchup. Marc Tobiasch piloting 4-color control versus Ivan Floch playing Teamer Energy. What do you make of this matchup?
Well, Ivan is a very, very good Teamer Energy player, but Marc Tobiasch is on his pet deck, and in this matchup, I would think he's favored just because the 4-color control deck is just a little bit slower, and the main deck Gearhulks are just going to be such a huge problem for Ivan as well, combined with 3 Vraskis Contempts. We saw the list. There's 4 Glory Bringers in Ivan's deck, and if Marc Tobiasch is able to handle those, Marc is going to be very well set on winning this matchup.
Okay, so far it sounds like edge to Germany, edge to Germany. So if you are a Slovakia fan, you're probably hoping that Seat C looks a bit better. Moritz Templin for Germany, he's their national runner-up, playing Ramunaps red against Ondrej Kedrovic, their take on Mardu Vehicles.
Well, there's one important caveat to all of this, that Germany only lost 1 match throughout the whole weekend, which means they're the #1 seed. This means that they are able to play first in all the matchups, and in this particular one, it's the most important one.
Wow, that's a big deal here.
Yeah, because the Ramunaps red deck is usually decently well set up against the Mardu Vehicles deck, because Mardu is just not that good at defending. So if the Mardu Vehicles deck is not ahead in the early turn, it has a very tough time of coming back. So again, I would put the edge over to Germany, but my heart is bleeding because I want my boys, my Slovak boys, to win. So I'm hoping for a miracle here.
Are you surprised that we didn't put Matej in the booth for quarterfinal 1? No. All right, so still to come, Wales against Poland. Still to come, Japan against Austria, and still to come, Italy against China. And that's just to reach the semi-finals. But it's time to get down to the floor. The quarterfinals of the World Magic Cup 2017 are about to begin.
Well, thanks so much for that, Rich. And yes, certainly are going to get a very objective call of the first quarters here in the booth. We've got a real-life actual German in Simon Goertzen, and we've got a sort of halfway there fake German in me. So, completely unbiased coverage coming away of the World Magic Cup. It's our pleasure to do it for you. The players are shuffled and ready down to the feature match area. It's time to head down to the floor. Right now, we're going to get underway with the first quarterfinal here at the World Magic Cup. What's up? Welcome to live coverage of the World Magic Cup Top 8. We are here in the quarterfinals, and it is Germany facing off against Slovakia. You're in the booth with Riley Knight, and alongside me, the Pro Tour champion. It is Simon Goertzen, also out of Germany. I know your heart is deeply invested in the outcome of this match here, Simon, but I tell you what, it's shaping up to be an absolute ripper.
Yeah, this top 8 is amazing, and we've been looking through the deck lists. We are expecting a lot of really close matches. These players really have to know which kind of archetype they're facing and how they want to shape these matches.
Certainly, the consensus going into this top 8, Germany amongst the favoured teams here. Of course, superstars Japan to overcome in later rounds perhaps. But right now, all eyes on Die Mannschaft here, as the Germans are definitely going to put the Slovakians to task. But I tell you what, Ivan Floch is quite a very, very accomplished player to overcome. A Pro Tour champion as well, and a modern master of the game, Simon.
Yes, and definitely the most decorated player in the feature match area right now. So Ivan Floch on arguably the best deck in standard. So Mark has his work cut out for him.
Oh, hello. What's this, Simon?
Some nice basics.
Bit of spice here in the feature match area for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have actually hooked the players up with unstable basics. These guys are going to really enjoy some of the stuff that people are very excited about in the forthcoming unstable release. These full art basics have been a hallmark of the unstable the unsets over the years, and the players are really. Wow, I mean, it can take the game to the next level, certainly crushing the basic land style points today. Ivan Floch and Marc Tobiasch both benefiting from this. Glintsleeve Siphoner has been joined by a long tusker, both players kicking things off nicely with their respective 2-drops. And Tobiasch on 4-color control. We're going to see a tune with Ether. We're going to see Rogue Refiner out of him, but this is a very different looking deck here, Simon.
Yes, Mark built this deck to beat energy deck, beat the traditional Teamer Energy and Sultai Energy decks. He has access to all 4 colors, and we're not talking just about some splash. You could say red is his splash, but even there he has Harnessed Lightnings and Whirl of Virtuosos. He is playing 3 Vraska's Contempts, 3 Torrential Gear Hulks. He can really go over the top of the energy decks.
Glintsleeve Siphon is a nice way for Tobiasch to get ahead, and also getting some work done here, getting in for some early damage. Long Tusk Cub already biting the dust here, Simon. So Marc Tobiasch is in a good spot if his deck has been, so effectively constructed to beat the energy decks. And, I mean, with a near flawless record for the Germans across the last 2 days, Tobiasch, I think, would be feeling about as confident as you can.
Yes, and they are all on the play because of that. They only lost a single match in the Swiss rounds and the group stages. So on the play, definitely an advantage. Not having a third land, however, can be a problem for Tobiasch. He gets an extra draw here if he's allowed to untap with Glintsleeve Siphoner. So he has quite good chances to find land number 3 and cast Rogue Refiner. If he doesn't, he's in trouble.
Well, in the early stage of this game, and it looks like, oh no, Glintsleeve Siphoner is going to prevent Marc Tobiasch from ripping new cards off the top of his library, as the modern-day Dark Confidant also hits the bin, but right on time. The Rogue Refiner is going to come down and keep the cards flowing here for the German captain, who so far has done an incredibly good job of leading his team towards glory. Floch now 2 mana for him, and it's going to be cycling away this Sheltered Thicket. He's not so. I mean, well, this the hands of both players aren't really set up to get a lot of business done here.
No, Floch in particular has a hand that's very reactive, very defensive. He has cast 2 attunes. He has cast Harness Lightning. You can see in his hand Chandra, Torch of Defiance, and Confiscation Coup. Both great cards, but he needs to find a board state where those can actually have the impact he wants them to have.
Tobiasch with a little bit more action here. He's got a nice mix of threats and answers. And Glimmer of Genius, one of the cards that really pushes this 4-color control deck into the late game so effectively. Of course, scrying 2, drawing 2 at an all-time high when you every little percentage point counts. But flashing back with the Torrential Gearhulk and 2 energy as well. Whew, boy, this card does some heavy lifting.
Not so easy in Standard to find these kind of cards that just give you card advantage when you cast them. But Glimmer of Genius is just perfectly the perfect match to pair with Torrential Gearhulk.
So Tobiasch has got in now with the Rogue Refiner. It's back to Ivan Floch here, who is going to be able to deploy this Chandra should he so choose. He's got a handful of lands here.
Marc is punished quite a bit by that Blossoming March, by the way. He was not able to cast a 4 casting cost spell this turn.
So Chandra comes down, Flame Slash immediately taking care of the Rogue Refiner. The -3 ability on Chandra. Very useful in picking off, well, pretty high toughness creatures. Often we see, a Braid, we see Lightning Strike taking care of 3 toughness creatures, but Chandra takes it up to the next level there. 3 mana, and it's another Rogue Refiner here. Tobiasch's energy stockpile now matching Ivan Floch's, although he's ahead on the damage race. And the lands continue to come for the German here. So he, a couple of early stumbles, Simon, but he's still certainly in it.
So now this is the point where Ivan is getting some hope about just not closing out the game, but basically backing Marc into a corner. Generating card advantage with Chandra, with Confiscation Coup, with Glorybringer, and suddenly the 4-color control deck of Marc doesn't seem as scary as before.
So all of a sudden now we have, as you say, Chandra pulling Ivan Floch further ahead, and here we go. This is going to be a big play. It is Glorybringer exerting to take care of the Rogue Refiner. Look at this, the big 4/4 Duggan getting across and immediately pushing Ivan Floch further ahead. And he's really, we've pushed towards the late game, and Floch right now is the one capitalizing on that fact. So Tobiasch has to find a response, and he doesn't have one right now. I think he's just going to go for the Torrential Gearhulk play here potentially. Or, we could see something like a Glimmer of Genius. But you'd imagine that Harness Lightning in the bin is a nice target for the Gearhulk here, Simon.
Yeah, and you don't really want to draw additional cards when your opponent has an active Planeswalker, a Glorybringer, and whatever else Floch wants to deploy to the battlefield here.
Fatal Push can be so important in so many matchups as well, including this one, Team Energy getting rid of an early Long Tusk Cub, but right now rotting away in Marc Tobiasch's hands. Not really doing any work for him at all on this board state.
And even with Revolt, it will not be able to take care of Glorybringer, of course.
Well, maybe Floch's going to give him a target. Rogue Refiner's a potential one, although right now it's not going to get anything done. Fatal Push against this card. Servant of the Conduit also in hand for Floch as he draws. Finds a World of Virtuoso. Wow. Floch just keeps the hits keep coming. Yeah,
really nice how his draw has developed, because at some point he was sitting there with basically all lands and not much to do. If Marc had a bit more of a board presence, the game could have been over right there. But Ivan is now drawing into his threats.
Got some good news for fans of Germany around the world, however, here on Table A. Germany is up a game here, Simon. So an early lead going the way of the Germans against the Slovaks here as a game win goes, again, the way the Germans on our first table.
Yeah, and that's because these aggro decks, Mardu Vehicles, just really good against Godpharaoh's Gift decks.
So, here is the Torrential Gearhulk, and once again, just as we drew it up, we're going to see the Harness Lightning flashed back by the Gearhulk's ability and Dragon down.
Marc had to work on getting Glorybringer off the battlefield, and his next target is going to be Chandra, because Chandra is threatening to keep Ivan on par with in the card advantage battle.
So Tobiasch certainly has his work cut out for him, but I'll tell you this, his teammates are firing on all cylinders on table C now, Simon, as well. Germany are up. So an early lead going the way of the Germans on both sides of Marc Tobiasch as he continues to contest Ivan Floch here. His teammates are really pulling their weight and putting Germany in a great spot as the players hit their sideboards.
If you have a lineup with Ramunaps, Red, and Mardu vehicles, and you're on the play in all of your elimination matches, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a really big advantage. I mean, a bigger advantage than normal considering the very aggressive bent that Germany has taken to this tournament. And the Slovaks at this stage on the back foot on both tables A and C. Floch, however, he's doing everything he can to stem the bleeding. And so far, Simon, he's doing a great job of that.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I said, this teamer deck, even if it doesn't splash black, it's still a value machine. So as you can tell, it's holding on quite well here.
Scarab God coming down for Marc Tobiasch here. Huge big haymaker for the German captain. And again, this game very close to, very hard to pick apart here. A little bit too close to call at this stage. You'd have to say, though, the raw card quality, just the raw power level of the cards in Marc Tobiasch's list. And this is a trend that we've seen, Simon. We've seen energy-based decks try to get more and more powerful, go further and further over the top. It started with Confiscation Coup. It's gone as far as the Scarab God, and now we're up to things like Vraska. And right now, Floch is using two of those cards, Confiscation Coup, and all of a sudden, Scarab God's switch sides. Big attack here for Floch.
And that's a huge swing. The Confiscation Coup on Scarab God when Marc is basically tapped out, forced to use a Fatal Push on a Thopter token, and Chandra is still active. I think Ivan has maneuvered himself into a great position here.
That Confiscation Coup seems to be key here for the Slovak captain as a Long Tusk Cub comes down now, and Marc Tobiasch, wow, he's going to have to find something very special to get himself out of this one. I think that's another Fatal Push off the top. Takes care of the Long Tusk Cub, but it doesn't do too much else here, Simon. Oh, dear. Doesn't look like Marc Tobiasch is going to join his teammates, his compatriots in the clean sweep of game ones.
No, even has a Servant of the Conduit, so he has access to black mana. Of course, the other way to generate black mana is with Ether Hub. Then these Scarab Gods become even more threatening.
Yes, and we've seen that critically. Wales finally found the Ether Hub they needed to activate a Scarab God and put the game out of reach against the Americans yesterday. If you didn't see that, whoa, my goodness me, you're in for a treat. Harness Lightning here on the Scarab God. That means it's going to return to Marc Tobiasch's hand, so that's a start here. But wow, we had some huge plays in the feature match area yesterday, Simon. There's been a weekend full of action, but it really peaked yesterday.
Wales against the United States was amazing to watch and commentate on.
Yeah. Scarab God back to Tobiasch's hand here. The Germans really running the tables all weekend, only picking up a single loss against Poland late in the Swiss, but never looked to be in too much trouble throughout the weekend.
Well, if you pick up two losses during either of these group stages, you are out of the tournament. But Tobiasch and his team managed to get to two victories there as well. Poland is in this top 8, so losing to them may be a bit of foreshadowing. We will have to see.
We'll have to see how it goes. Yes, indeed. We may even see the old Poland-Germany rematch here. Bit of a grudge match later on in the top 8, but right now, Poland and Slovakia, with Ivan Floch, the captain, looking to avenge the losses. At the minute, he's in a bit of a 0-1 sandwich, as both of his teammates on either side of him didn't manage to get up in games number 1.
And Ivan has been working really hard for his team to get there, not only playing his own deck, but also basically supervising, advising both of his teammates to his left and right. Like I said in the beginning of the match, easily the most decorated player in the feature match area.
Just look at these unstable basics. My goodness. Can't wait to get my paws on some of these bad boys. As we see now, Chandra goes up. A little bit more energy here for Floch after that attune with Ether. Servant of the Conduit off the top. Tobiasch down to 4 if this doesn't get cast. Yep.
And that looks like a lethal attack.
It's a big one, isn't it? Look at this. 6 creatures are rumbling into the red zone, ready to give Tobiasch the business. And he's got nothing else to do. He packs them up, and the German captain going down to the Slovakian superstar here. So, Germany, with an early lead on games on either side of Marc Tobiasch, his teammates did get up, but Ivan Floch is a hard man to pin down, and he's done very well indeed to make sure that his team stays within a sniff of the victory. Right now, my friends, you've got to go to a break, but stick around. We're going to have more quarterfinal action coming your way from Nice here at the World Magic Cup.
Always know the right play to make? Show off your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. With over 2,000 game stores worldwide running PPTQs, find an event near you at magic.wizards.com/PPTQ.
So Magic the Gathering Arena. We chose that word arena very particularly because an arena is a place where people gather, where people come to compete, where people come to spectate and cheer on their favorites. It really is a place where the whole community can come together and experience the very best of what Magic has to offer.
Welcome back to continued live coverage of the World Magic Cup out of Nice in France. It's my great pleasure to welcome you back to the feature match area. My name is Riley Knight and I'm joined by the Pro Tour champion, my good friend and colleague, Simon Goertzen. He's German, and the players on the left-hand side of your screen also sharing that privilege. They are German as well. Against the Slovaks, and the Germans in a great spot here, Simon, as we head into game number 2.
Yep, out of the 3 games to finish, Germany won 2 of them. And I'm not surprised. If you put these aggro decks, especially Mardu Vehicles, up against Blue-White Gifts on the play, I really like the evasive, aggressive deck.
You can see here Philipp the Warrior Krieger. He's getting it done now with an early Heart of Kiran. But we had a bit of a chat about this matchup, Simon, and you think that Krieger is way, way ahead.
Yeah, I think it does make for an interesting match after sideboards because, of course, White-Blue Gifts is traditionally pretty good against aggressive strategies. You can just play all these speed bombs and ways to deal with creatures, but what do you do against Heart of Kiran? It's just a threat that you don't have a good way of solving.
And a lot of the removal in Philipp Krieger's deck. I mean, the way that it lines up against the White-Blue Gift deck is, not always perfect, but bring a bunch of techie cards from the sideboard. We've got 4 copies of Duress, but it's the Magma Sprays that I'm going to keep an eye on. If you can shoot down a Champion of Wits with a Magma Spray, all of a sudden you're in business. It's not coming back again with the God Pharaoh's Gift and drawing 4, 5, 6, 700 cards. And that means that Krieger's, in a great spot to really, really contest Snoha here. However, he's on the play. He's played out his search for his counter. Oh, but after a strategic planning, I think he's missed his his third land drop here.
And that's very unfortunate because he did get to see so many extra cards with the search for Escanta and strategic planning.
So he's going to get another bite at this particular apple here, but Philipp Krieger is already really getting it done. The Heart of Kiran has come in thanks to Depala, the Pilot Exemplar. And wow, crashing in for 5 on turn 3? That heart has been beefed up.
I mean, turn 2 Heart is already the best turn 2 play. I'm a bit surprised. Did Peter just put a plains into his graveyard?
He's found an island and another land here? Okay.
No, it looks to me like he just didn't play his land on turn 3.
He just F6 straight through the turn. Unfortunate for him, he forgot to play a land. I mean, the pressure, the bright lights of the feature match area can certainly do a real number on your concentration. I mean, we've seen this already throughout the weekend, and unfortunately, it looks like Peter Snoha may have paid a bit of a price for that there.
And that's huge. He basically gave the advantage of being on the play in game 2 to his opponent.
So a bit of a reversal of fortunes here for Philipp Krieger, who already is benefiting from a deck, as you said, Simon, that is very well set up to contest with. Traditionally, white-blue gifts is good against aggro, but Krieger's here to show us the way. Looks like a duress is going to be the next play here for Snoha, and he's got some interesting options to choose from. So, in hand for Snoha, you can see. Are we going to see a spell pierce here just to tie up some more of Philipp Krieger's mana? And Simon, you are wrinkling your forehead in displeasure.
I was just trying to figure out what the lands are on Peter's battlefield, because if that's a glacial fortress, does he have a plains or an island in play?
Oh, that glacial fortress came into play untapped.
Yeah, we have to call a judge on that.
Yeah, wow, that snuck right by us here. We're going to get this fixed up as soon as we can, because that glacial, he should not have been allowed to cast this spell pierce with no plains or islands. That glacial fortress should have come into play tapped. So we are all over it, ladies and gentlemen, and as fast as we can resolve this situation, we will get a Dunsky here. You can see down on the feature match area, they are already springing into action, leaping like gazelles across the African savannah here. But if we can talk more generally now about the matchup here, Simon, the fact that we are now in post-board games and some of the options that are available to Philipp the Warrior Krieger here in the form of Duress and Magma Spray and Ixalan's Binding as well, one of the answers to the Godpharaoh's Gift, and a nice one too.
Yeah, it's interesting how the German team had to build their decks in a way that they had to support Ramunap Red and Mardu Vehicles, so two aggressive decks that are at least partially red, and that means only one of these decks got to play Abrades, which are the best answer or the most efficient answer to Godpharaoh's Gift. But as we can tell, Philipp Krieger has ways to deal with Godpharaoh's Gift and to deal with this matchup. He not only does he play Duresses in his sideboard, he has the Ixalan's Binding that you mentioned, he has Magma Spray, so all kinds of tools to make this matchup better.
Yeah, a bunch of really techie cards, as you mentioned. Now, from our vantage point here, Simon, we can see right now more judges than the Supreme Court assembled in the feature match area to resolve this situation. But, I mean, how do things look for Snoha post-board? He's also, you can also change things up a little bit. And, I mean, does his matchup get any better post-board against the aggro decks?
Well, I think against the aggro decks that you expected most in this tournament, yes. It's just great if you go into this game plan of casting Thopter Arrests and Angel of Sanctions and almost playing a control game against aggro. But I think it is quite a bit weaker. This game plan is quite a bit weaker against motor vehicles.
Yeah, and this is one of the advantages that Germany has really, really ratcheted up. This is not something we've seen this weekend, Simon. We've seen traditionally an energy deck, whether it's a Salta energy, four-color energy, Teamer energy. In Marc Tobiasch's case, he's gone a very full-on control route with his energy deck. Or alternatively, it's been something like, and then on the other side, it's been Ramunaps Red or another aggressive deck, right? Very rarely have we seen two aggressive decks in addition to the energy deck.
No, this is something that we haven't seen a lot of teams go over. And you have to even get the idea that you might be able to pair these two decks that want to play, for example, Bomart Courier, both of them, Chandra, both of them. But I want to get back to this game. It's really an unfortunate situation for Peter. First, he misses his third land drop, and then he plays a Glacial Fortress, thinks it's untapped, even though he has an island in hand that would have enabled the spell pierce. So a really unfortunate situation here.
Yeah, it hasn't gone too well here for Snoha, as Krieger is going to really slam this point home. A duress comes down. It's going to take care of the refurbish. But now Krieger with the advantage of not having his mana tied up, which means, of course, we can see not only an attack with the Heart of Kiran, but Depala, Pilot Exemplar, getting in and about as well, because the Scrap Heap Scrounger has piloted the Heart. And wow, this one is basically, it's almost over before it's begun here, Simon. Snoha really, really under a huge amount of pressure. And after a couple of missteps is going to have to pull something very special together to keep the train rolling.
I think this is almost decided. You can't not play your land and then not play anything of board relevance for the next couple of turns. That Search for Azcanta was a good card, but you have to follow it up with defense. And at the same time, the Mardu Vehicles player on the left, he had one of the best possible starts you could think of.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, gone are the days of Thraben Inspector into Smuggler's Copter, but all the same, this Mardu Vehicles deck just will not die. It's the cockroach under the heel of the jackbooted oppressors. It just will not die. It keeps coming back again and again and again. It's won GP titles. It's now in the hands of a German master here in the top 8 of the World Magic Cup. It is a very, very powerful deck, and people, I hope they were ready to come and play against it this weekend. Snoha, however, he's digging deep. He's not out of it just yet, as we see a Champion of Wits come down, draw some cards here, 1 and 2 off the top, discard 2 as well. And I like the fact that Snoha, he's trying to keep his head in the game and he's trying to get it done.
We've seen this in the past. Players make mistakes, but then the most important ability is to just continuing to play well and not let this affect your future decisions.
So another play here is a Minister of Inquiries from Peter Snoha, 2 energy for him. As we see a couple of lands, or a land and something else discarded there. And it's back to Krieger. You'd think he'd be trying to put the finishing touches on this match. Not sure if there's anything in hand that's going to help him do that. Looks a little bit flooded at this stage, but all the same, got plenty of action.
And he is a bit flooded. Otherwise, he would have been able to play a creature to crew the heart with. That would have been almost lethal, but I think he can just shoot Peter here if he plays a Walking Ballista for 2.
Here's the Ballista, tap 4 mana, 2 counters, very happily. Peter Snoha is on 2, and an extension of the hand from the Slovak means that Germany has their first match win here, Simon, and they edge ever closer to that semi-final appearance. Simon Gertzen, a proud German, beside himself with joy, ladies and gentlemen, overcome with emotion, I would say.
Yeah, this is great.
That's about as much as you're going to get from him today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to head over to our back table now, Table C. And once again, it is the Germans with their noses ahead right now. Wow, Mardu Vehicles also on this table, but of course coming up against Ramunap Red. And now we would have seen here Moritz Templin. We would have seen him really benefit from being on the play in game number 1 in this aggro mirror. But do things change now post-board as well?
Oh, yeah, and it's actually quite the interesting matchup. You would think it's aggro on aggro violence, but somehow the Mardu Vehicles deck feels a bit clunky when playing against Ramunap Red. You have all these artifacts, especially the vehicles, that you don't want to crew when Ramunap Red is representing a Braid, for example. And at the same time, the Ramunap Red deck is playing a lot more burn spells, so always threatening to just burn you out.
Templin, off to a bit of a slower start. Soulscar Mage has been a bit of a poor substitute for many of the powerful one-drops that left us once Ixalan arrived. Toolcraft Exemplar is going to hit the bin alongside the Soulscar Mage as a shock from Kedrovic keeps the board nice and clear. And I like this. Kedrovic's doing a good job at containing Moritz and also building his own board.
Yes, and that's an amazing start for the Mardu Vehicles player. Similar to the game we just watched. It's not Heart of Kiran, but Scrap Heap Scrounger, if you can be the aggressor, is amazing. Of course, if you want to play defense, it's one of the worst cards to have.
And a Braid now from Moritz Templin is going to take care of one of these artifact creatures, but the other one rumbles across, no worries whatsoever. And as we see, Moritz Templin, he is needing to go into the late game. Well, we say the late game, turn 4 and beyond counts as it when you've got about 15 mountains in your deck here. But Moritz Templin, with 4 drops in hand, he's going to have to sustain this early pressure from Kedrovic. He's going to have to get through it and somehow push through with cards like Sand Strangler and Hazoret.
Something that's interesting here is that Ondrej technically doesn't have access to black mana unless he has an artifact in play. So if Moritz gets rid of all the Scrap Heap Scroungers, there is a hope for Germany that the Scrap Heap Scroungers will just be stranded in the graveyard. Not anymore, though.
So, Kedrovic is doing a very good job here of putting a lot of pressure on Templin. But Templin's going to try to equalize now as we see probably a Sand Strangler come down and take care of one of these creatures. What are you targeting here?
I think you have to get rid of the creature that is not threatening to come back from the graveyard. You're just not winning this game if you are starting to kill Scrap Heap Scroungers. On the other hand, you are falling behind in life total.
So the Scrap Heap Scrounger, unafraid of the Hill Giant facing it, is going to come across and put some pressure on Templin. Try to give him a bit of a clip over the ear hole here as the 3-2 continues to pressure the German's life total here. And Templin, considering the block, we do have the entirety of Team Germany assembled around Templin, providing him with that support that he needs. And I tell you what, Tobiasch, he's known in Germany, he's known throughout Germany and throughout Europe as a master deck builder, and having him on your side not only during deck construction but also while playing, that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I have the utmost respect for Marc. He's a great deck builder, but somehow he finds the right middle ground between creativity and still just building these really powerful ways to attack the metagame.
1 damage upstairs for Kedrovic once more as the sun-scorched desert, the stinging sands of the desert, blast into Kedrovic's eyes. Didn't bring those goggles today, obviously. And a rampaging Ferocity means that no life's going to be gained no way, no how. Scrap Heap Scrounger comes back. Encore performance from the 3-2. And Kedrovic keeping the pressure up.
Yeah, and now we are entering this stage of the game where Ondrej gets free 3-2 attackers to continue to punish Templin for not having adequate blockers. Moritz actually trying to get Hazard into play because that's the best blocker he can manage.
It's a great blocker. Oh, she can really block. She blocks for days. Not the traditional role of Hazard the Fervent, but hey, in a pinch.
Isn't that why she's indestructible?
Oh, yes. Excuse me. Yes. Traditionally, that's why she has haste as well. Come down and be a nice hasty blocker, Simon. Here is Hazard the Fervent. Of course, we are going to see this card. One of the mainstay, one of the pillars of Standard, really. But Kedrovic continues to have pressure. Shock in hand as well.
Is Hazard still alive? Or
Hazard was the only god that survived the purge. Yes.
I wasn't exactly sure, but that's good to know.
The only god that survived after Nicole Bolas came back during the 5 hours.
That's why she's still seeing play.
Yes. It's very, very flavourful indeed. As a Hazard comes down for Kedrovic as well and wraps things up, Moritz Templin scoops him up. And that is much better stuff from Slovakia here as Kedrovic takes down game number 2. And Simon, I mean, Templin never really looked to be in it. From that early Skullscar Mage being shot down by the shock, from that point onwards, this game was just all about what Ondrej was up to.
Yeah, and the Skullscar Mage itself is not great in this matchup when your opponent is playing just these really hyper-efficient creatures. But as you can tell, whoever is on the play has the initiative, and that makes all the difference. Because if you have a Soulscar Mage with prowess attacking, it's scary. A Soulscar Mage on defense, not so much. A Hazard attacking, very scary. On defense, not so much. And the list goes on.
So Tobiasch here. Marc Tobiasch swoops back down to his table. And we're going to see the two team captains square off once again. Of course, we saw Ivan Floch. He got it done in game number 1 here. And so the Slovakians certainly not going down without a fight. And if Floch can get up here again, we're going to have a tiebreaker situation on our hand on the back table. Well, not quite a tiebreaker. We're going to have a, playing for all the marbles type situation on the back table here.
And this is game 3. So we are in the situation where Germany is up a match and both other tables B and C, are tied 1-1.
Mm-hmm. So here, Marc Tobiasch can put this in the books. He can win this game and then, therefore, win this match. He can carry his team to victory if he's able to do to get up here. Because as you can see on your screen, players tied up. 1-1. Opening with Ether Hub. Ugh, little awkward. What does that mean for Tobiasch? Oh, dear. Is he on the mulligan to 5 here, Simon?
Yeah, on the play, mulligan to 5. He got to scry, but he didn't get to draw a card. So he needs lands.
He needs a land. He needs it now. Didn't find it. Oh, did. Oh, Harness Lightning. But no Glensleeve Siphoner is going to come down to keep those cards flowing. So the Long Tusk Cub is down, and that is very, very fortunate for Tobiasch because that card represented very, very early pressure.
It's also good that the Harnessed Lightning, even though it cost him an energy, it also generated one again. So Ether Hub is live.
Still live here. So Tobiasch will be able to cast the Glensleeve Siphoner. Supreme Will off the top. Didn't get a great look at the rest of the contents of his hand, although a Rogue Refiner means that he is going to be able to draw a card. Looks like he did find the lands that he needed here, and that's good stuff here from Tobiasch. Rogue Refiner for Floch as well. So, early jitters for the Germans, but Tobiasch managing to get out of it here. And we should have a proper game on our hands. Looks like Floch's got a pretty stacked bunch of options as well. Rogue Refiner, a centerpiece of both of these decks, even though they are, very different in their approach. Floch is going for that transitional kind of pivoting approach that Teema can take to many matchups. It can adopt the role that it needs to, Simon, whereas Tobiasch has a much more, deliberate approach to the games that he's going to play. He's looking to go long, he's looking to go late and wrap it up with very powerful cards.
Absolutely. We saw basically this evolution. Teamer Energy, then Teamer Energy with Black, then at the World Championship, we had basically Confiscation Coup coming out. And now, with players playing Scarab Gods, Vraskas, Marc Tobiasch is just saying, okay, I can just play straight up 4-color and have not only all these cards, but also access to, for example, the Blue Gear Hulk.
It's Rogue Refiner 2 Electric Boogaloo now for Floch. I guess it's actually the third. The difficult third album comes down for Floch. This is Rogue Refiners dueling away everywhere. Sneak attacks out the wazoo. But Floch here, he's got a real choice to make with what he deploys next.
And these are actually the most tricky turns. If you're entering the mid game, which cards do you tap out for? How much do you respect cards like that Supreme Will, but also Negate or Essence Scatter?
Well, we saw Tobiasch deal handily with the Mana Leak mode on Supreme Will, taking care of the Chandra of the Torch of Defiance, and then trading off his Rogue Refiner against the opposing Refiner there. So Ivan Floch is, still got a lot of questions to ask of Marc Tobiasch. He's not out of the woods yet, but Tobiasch is doing a good job of keeping the pressure at least a little bit contained.
Yeah, right now Marc is just answering the threats of Marc. Here you can see Tobiasch holding Essence Scatter, holding Harnessed Lightning, and he just wants to delay the game. Basically, he wants things to continue so that he can draw into lands because he knows he's favored in the late game.
So you can see here Tobiasch, he'd be happy for Glimmer of Genius or another way to continue to draw ahead on cards.
And one thing is how difficult these turns are for Floch. He has 2 Vizier of Many Faces, but if he plays it and his Rogue Refiner dies, that's a really awkward turn for him, so he doesn't really want that. At the same time, he would like to keep open Negate or Supreme Will. Negate is the only card he can keep open while still deploying something to the board, so that's what he goes for.
This is what we're going to see here. Servant of the Conduit means that Floch is left with 2 mana up, and that represents not only a Negate, but maybe a Harness Lightning as well. Tobiasch will keep that in mind, but we know Floch is sitting on a Negate. So for Tobiasch, he's going to have to be careful in how he deploys his next couple of plays. Harness Lightning on the Servant. Is this enough to bait out the counterspell from Floch?
I would think that Floch is keeping it for more scary threats. On the other hand, he is ahead on the battlefield, and he has deck lists, so he knows what Marc is capable of doing with 5 mana and what he isn't.
We can see here in Tobiasch's hand a range of options for the German here. Going all the way up to the Scarab God now that we've found that 5th land, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a tamer play. Here's Glensleeve Siphoner. And Tobiasch, as we said, under a little bit of pressure, but on the whole, not too much.
And Marc is taking a very conservative line here. He wants to just get that Siphoner into play, even though it's not great. It's most likely blocking because Marc is falling behind in the damage race. But if you have a hand with the Scarab God and you play a Glensleeve Siphoner instead, that's some restraint.
Tobiasch is going to be able to hold off any big plays for Floch when it comes to creatures. And it looks like this Vizier of the Many Faces, and you are snapping off the Essence Scatter here, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. That must have been on Marc's mind. Actually, one of the big reasons not to play the Scarab God, because if you play your Scarab God when you're behind on board and then Ivan has the Vizier, that's very problematic.
So Vizier of Many Faces is going to choose one of them. Okay, Tobiasch, once again, very conservative in the route that he's taking here. Seems like Floch has snagged himself another Rogue Refiner here. Vizier of Many Faces, another card that pushes players towards the late game, gaining value through many of their, well, own value creatures. But of course, snagging a Scarab God, either of your own or an opposing one, is huge game.
Marc is walking a tightrope here, basically. He's saying, I know I'm behind, but I have this game plan, for example, of Torrential Gearhulk. On Torrential Gearhulk, even if Ivan copies it, he doesn't gain the same benefit from it. So Marc is saying, look, if you want to spend your Viziers to copy something as irrelevant as a Rogue Refiner, then go ahead. I can afford to let that resolve.
So that's exactly what's going to happen here as Floch goes up to 6 energy, draws another card, finds a Servant of the Conduit. Still no 5th land here for the Slovak captain. Attack for 5, and Tobiasch is just going to take it. Wow. He's really, really taking a line here that could come back to haunt him. However, it could, if things pan out well for him, put him so far ahead as to leave Floch in the dust. There is a land here for Floch.
Marc is playing to win this game, and he's not playing not to lose, if you know what I mean. He could have taken the easier line of just countering and saying, okay, this keeps me in the game. But he knows that staying in the game is not what he needs to do. He needs to find a way to stop the bleeding and to turn this game around. The best way he can do this is with an untapped land and a Torrential Gearhulk. Or even just an untapped land and keeping open Essence Scatter and Vraska's content. The amount of options he would get from that are actually huge.
So you can see there a little bit of visual clarity as to what our good friend the Vizier took, or I should say copied. And Tobiasch doesn't look like he's got the 6th land here, Simon. So an interesting decision point for him. Does he deploy the Scarab God, keep up Vraska's Contempt, maybe an Essence Scatter as well? Gonti also amongst the options here for Tobiasch.
So Marc had the read that there would be a Vizier to match his Scarab God. And I believe that even though Ivan deployed one, okay, the first thing you think is, okay, he might not have another one. But why would a player like Ivan Floch use his Vizier of Many Faces on a Rogue Refiner when both players know that the Scarab God is one of the key cards of the matchup?
Much juicier peaches for him to munch on later on. So do you think Tobias has the absolute deepest soul read on Floch and he knows he's got the second one in hand?
I wouldn't be surprised, yes. This is a really high-level game we're watching. It's still, like I said, really, really close as well because Marc Tobiasch, he will have to block at some point. He has to be careful how to deal with that Vizier. If it goes to the graveyard, there's suddenly the Embalm ability. He certainly doesn't need the second Glintsleeve Siphoner, so I would expect a block with that one.
Floch now carefully considering his options. 4 mana means we see another Vizier of Many Faces. Tobiasch has been rewarded for not opening the gates for the Scarab God here, but the fact that it goes to the bin means that the Embalm ability may come up in future turns. Super, super important to keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, as we head towards the late game in this one here, and Tobiasch doing everything he can, kicking and screaming, dragged towards this game coming to a conclusion. An attack here from Floch is going to give him pause to think about his blocks.
And Floch has taken an aggressive stance. He's seen turn after turn that Marc is behind. So Ivan says, I'm just gonna push my advantage here. But Marc, with his conservative play, sure, he's on 5. He might go to 4 in his upkeep. But if he has that land and a tapped out opponent, then suddenly Torrential Gearhulk can turn this game around. He got Essence Scatter on Vizier of Many Faces off, and is that a tapped land? Botanical Sanctum?
Botanical Sanctum and another Gearhulk off the top here for Tobiasch. He cannot catch a break. He needed that untapped 6th land here so the Torrential Gearhulk could really get it done, but he just hasn't found what he needed.
A Swamp would have been so good in this situation.
That is rough stuff here for Tobiasch. There is no shame in going down to a player like Ivan Floch, but in these circumstances, not like this.
And at this stage, he's out of energy as well, so he doesn't have a second black source. If you don't cast the Scarab God here, you're not casting anything. And that is just lethal damage on Ivan's side.
So, Ivan Floch is going to have to contend with a Scarab God, but of course, he's got a Vizier of Many Faces in the bin. which means Inbam could come up here as Tobiasch attempts to put up a bit of a defence. As the 5-5 attempts to hold down the ground.
And it does, because, I mean, copying a Scarab God does not mean you can attack this turn.
So, Tobiasch doing his very best to keep himself in it. On 4, however, he's in a tough spot. Floch, a few options for him. Bristling Hydra, Whirl of Virtuoso, Supreme Will in hand. A little bit of table piano to rev himself into this turn here.
I don't think many players in the world would have played this game as patiently as Marc. Not casting Essence Scatter when he could. Keeping Glintsleeve Siphoner around because he knew he needed all these extra draws to maximize his chances for a 6th land.
So Tobiasch priced into blocking here, a forced block thanks to the fact that all of these creatures are attacking. The Scarab God's going to block very nicely. The Glintsleeve Siphoner should be able to trade off as well. And the block he has lined up, ready to go down to 1 here. Tobiasch, unafraid.
That's a bit surprising to me. I thought that you would just block the Vizier at this stage because there's already 1 in the graveyard.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be able to embalm 2 in a turn just yet. Whirl of Virtuoso, however, oh my goodness, those Thopters could spell imminent doom here for Marc Tobiasch. Things not looking good for the German captain. Floch only needing to put the finishing touches on this game. Although Vraska's Contempt could buffer his life total a little bit here.
So we're talking about 3 Thopters coming down for Ivan, and then Marc would have to target a Thopter token with Vraska's Contempt to stay alive.
Go up to 3, take 2.
Yeah, I'm not too optimistic that that's going to work, especially because Floch, of course, does have the Supreme Will up.
Tobiasch in what may be the very final stages of this game here, forcing a Game 3 on the back table, on table C, to determine the outcome of the match here. After a blazing fast start for the Germans, there's been some stumbles, been some hiccups. Rogue Refiner the play here for Tobiasch. 2 energy and a card. He needs a land. Finds it. Ether Hub. This means that we are still live to cast the Vraska's Contempt here. Risky business from Tobiasch. Head in hands here. Channeling his inner Huey Jensen. Look at him go, massaging those temples. Ivan Floch sitting back, cool, calm, collected, relaxed as ever. That slight, mild smile on his face that he's known for. He always looks like he knows something you don't, Ivan Floch.
Well, in this case, he knows that he's winning next turn because there's just no combination of cards that deals with 3 Thopters that he cannot stop with the Supreme Will in his hand.
Look at that, the picture of concentration. Ivan Floch explaining to his teammate, this is how I'm going to win. This is how I'm going to do it. It's very easy. Magic's a very easy game. Tobiasch, however, concerned. All the efficiency in the world of his people not helping him right now. 3 Thopters, 1, 2, 3. Each and every one of them a lethal attacker. Ivan Floch, Supreme Will in hand. He is about to close the door on the German captain here and force a 3rd match tiebreaker on the back table. Germany, they got it done on table A. Very, very swiftly indeed. We saw their Mono Red aggro deck, their Mardu Vehicles deck take things apart. Oh, hello. What's this?
We'll find out now. Marc got the...
Oh, no, it's not good enough here. Marc Tobiasch bringing back the Vizier of Many Faces to copy the Whirl of Virtuoso. But Ivan Floch saw the line. Attack with all, he says. And the Slovakian captain gets it done for his team as we move now to the back table. And he's not wasting any time in getting there, ladies and gentlemen. Having a look at Marc Tobiasch explaining how things go out. And the Philipp the Warrior Krieger, he goes, mate, there's nothing you could have done. Nothing you could have done.
Yeah, also, it's not all that relevant. There's still a game to be played. So I would now focus on Ramunaps Red against Mardu Vehicles here. That's where your mental energy is better spent.
So here we go. Bit of a Belictus port getting built here for Marc Tobiasch as he goes to sandwich himself between his teammates and help out Moritz Templin against his opponent here. Ondrej Kedrovic. On Madu vehicles, a much more traditional list of Madu vehicles that we've seen, starting with the Toolcraft Exemplar, of course, going through Heart of Kieran all the way up to some of the bigger cards that are involved with the Madu deck, which, as we've mentioned, just will not die. But Ramunap Red has run roughshod over the format for a long time with its partner in crime, Teamer Energy, and Templin is looking to do exactly that. Soulscar Mage coming in for one. What can Kedrovic find on turn number 2 here? His hand does not look great, Simon.
No, and that's because Scrap Heap Scrounger is so much better on the play than on the draw. It just doesn't block. And Moritz Templin actually had a nice curve of 1, 3, and 4, and he drew the Lightning Strike, the one draw step he had.
This is looking great. This is looking very good for Templin here as he continues to curve out. In comes the Soulscar Mage after the Scrap Heap Scrounger hits the bin. And we're going to see a follow-up play, Rampaging Ferocidon, continuing to put pressure on Ondrej Kedrovic's life total. Blink and you'll miss it, my friends. This one could be over before it's begun here. Kedrovic, without too much going on, and the Ferocidon means that even something like an Aethersphere Harvester won't buy the Slovak any extra time. Concealed Courtyard as Templin curves out with those beautiful full-out mountains here.
And the best part is that because he's curving out so nicely, the Hazards will be live very soon. Or one Hazard will be live very soon.
Dumping his hand onto the table here, Templin. A second Rampaging Ferocidon in hand is going to really punish Kedrovic for playing creatures. Double no life gain. It's even more effective.
He actually has a choice here. He could also just cast Hazard if he sees a chance to empty his hand next turn. It is more damage than Rampaging Ferocidon.
And Kedrovic snaps off the trade here with a Veteran Motorist going up against the Soulscar Mage. Can't block the Ferocidon. It's got Menace, of course. Big, scary monster. Not going up against that. The Veteran Motorist. I mean, the Motorist has seen, it's a veteran, seen some stuff. Never seen a dinosaur before. Not going to tussle with that. Another one coming down here as well. And after this blazing fast start here from Templin, Kedrovic's going to have to find something very special to get back in the game. That PNLR will cost him 4 life to cast.
Yeah, that's terrible. That's the worst card to have when your opponent starts on multiple Ferocidons.
He's got to do it here. Look at this. 4 life Ondrej Kedrovic as Chandra's mum comes down, giving Kedrovic an absolute pasting. But now Templin, he's not worried at all. Down comes Hazard. Look at this. Costs him 2 life. He ain't about that, though. He ain't mind.
He drew a land, so that allowed him to...
And he can finish things here. Simon, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Germany have gone up and above. They have crushed Slovakia in game number 3 on table C, and you can see, overcome with emotion, these Germans. A very stoic race of people, my friends. I can personally attest to it. I'm sitting next to one right now who has a very small smile on his face. Simon, talk to us about how you're feeling. You've just seen Germany get themselves into the semi-final.
This is great. Slovakia wasn't too confident, and I think it's exactly because what we saw. The 2 aggro decks on the play just had relatively good matchups there on the A and C seed. Tobiasch losing his match ultimately not mattering because the aggro decks just took it down.
As we welcome you back to the booth here, Simon Gerson, once again a proud German. You can see, the waves of emotion coming off him, ladies and gentlemen. Too much for us all to bear here, but a blazing fast finish there to the end of that match, Simon, and that was really what we saw there was Ramunap Red at its best.
Yeah, and you could tell exactly how good Scrap Heap Scrounger was in game 2. And how it didn't even affect the board in game 3.
Yeah, just the Lightning Strike taking it down. It wasn't going to be in a position to block anything. But, I mean, look, Rampaging Ferocidon, hugely punishing for the Slovak there. And, wow, Germany have got it done, and then we'll see them in the semi-finals.
Yep.
Very, very happy about that indeed, of course. As coverage of the World Magic Cup continues, we've got to go to a break, but stick around. You're not going to want to miss the next one. I can see the Welsh team out there in the feature match area. They are assembling, and they have gone to the next level with their costumes. You're not going to want to miss a minute of it, my friends. Stick around, because on the other side of this, we'll be back with more quarterfinals here from the World Magic Cup.
Hello and welcome back to the news desk here at the 2017 World Magic Cup. Tim Willoughby is on the floor with the victors of the first quarterfinals.
Thank you, Maria, here with Team Germany. And it was, well, after a very, very good start for you guys, a little bit of a closer round than perhaps you might have been hoping for. But you know what? Marc Tobiasch, in spite of having to play against a Pro Tour champion in Ivan Floch, how great is it to have two teammates on either side of you just crushing with aggro decks?
Yeah, when I need them, they're there. So that's perfect.
And, of course, yours was probably the most intricate of the matches. On the other side of things, well, Krieger with vehicles just did it in absolutely brutal fashion, very, very quickly indeed. And while the mono-red deck did take a full 3 games, that one seemed relatively straightforward for you. Are you still kind of excited about taking your control deck up against the various decks that we see left in this Final Four?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Like, sometimes the matches go in either direction, obviously, but it was really nice that we get to start because the 2 aggro decks really like that, obviously, so that's going to be a big advantage going forward.
Of course, that's something we're going to see for most of this Final Four. Team Germany doing so well in the early stage of this competition that on the play in team competition, just absolutely fantastic. Best of luck to you, Germany, in these remaining rounds here at the World Magic Cup.
Thank you.
Matej, a tough loss for the Slovak team, and in particular Petr Snoha, because Ivan Floch won his match and had a great battle with Marc Tobiasch to look back on. Ondrej Kedrovic, even though he lost the match ultimately, did take a game. But Petr Snoha, that Mardu vehicles against white-blue gifts, he must have sat down knowing, like you said before the game, he's a strong underdog, and 0-2 and...
Yeah, there was just not much he could do, and he knew it was a bad matchup. But also, his draws didn't line up really well against what Philipp Krieger was doing. And yeah, unfortunate. You know, I'm very sad on the inside. I'm trying to be very brave.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm taking the positive for Slovakia. The 3rd World Magic Cup top 8 in its history, and we're a small country. I think that's a fantastic achievement.
I'll tell you what, by lunchtime it'll only be me functioning at the desk, because if Wales are out, then just who knows what's going to happen.
A puddle of tears, Rich.
What a lovely image that is. So, let's take a look at our bracket for you here on day 3 of the World Magic Cup. The first quarterfinal is done, and the number 1 seeds, Germany, have defeated Slovakia by 2 matches to 1, and they advance to the semi-finals. So well done to Germany, and we move on to quarterfinal 2. This is Wales against Poland. Now, shall I talk about Wales? No, off you go, Marie.
All right, so Wales versus Poland. Here it is. Team Wales, captain in Pip Griffiths there, Sam Rolfe, Aaron Boyan. No Pro Tour top 8s, 1 Grand Prix top 8 for these boys, 55 GPs under their belts. I talked to them a little bit earlier this morning. They say they're feeling a little bit nervous about their matchups, but they're just so incredibly happy to have made their top 8. Let's take a look at what decks Wales is packing. Blue-black control here from Sam Rolfe, 3 copies of Torrential Gearhulk in that deck. Teamer Energy here for Aaron Boyan in seat B, and Desert Red from Pip Griffiths on the end. Kind of a different take than the mono-red decks that we've been seeing here, but I know you want to talk about this deck, Matej. Blue-black control. It's pretty cool. There's some neat tech in here.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Frank Carson about the metagame breakdown, and he brought up a very, very interesting point that in this tournament there were only 2 blue-black decks in the whole room, blue-black control decks rather, and both of them actually made top 8. One of them Sam Rolfe, the other Mattia Rizzi, who we'll see later. But Sam Rolfe, not only that he chose an interesting deck, I really appreciate how well Sam has been playing this deck. He's not someone who's very well known on the GP scene, like he's been around, but no big results. But I have to say I was very impressed with the way he was playing, and his list is definitely interesting. 2 Liliana, Death's Majesty is a card we haven't seen much, and I think it's been doing very good work for Sam, and I'm looking forward to seeing him face off against the Polish opponent.
So, talking of Poland, let's take a look at them for you. There's Captain Gregor Kowalski, Radek, or Radoslaw, to give him his full title, Kaczmarczyk, and Piotr Glogowski with his Pro Tour top 8. Of course, 4 Grand Prix top 8s between them. Let's take a look at the 3 decks for you. We're going to begin in seat A with Piotr Glogowski. He is playing a white-blue cycling deck with Fumigates and so on, and of course Drake Haven, the key card in that. Then in seat B, it's Gregor Kowalski with his 4-color energy. Not a lot of huge surprises in that one. And Radek Kaczmarczyk with Ramunap red. So Matej, I think the one that's most recently on the scene of those 3 in the world of Standard is white-blue cycling.
Yeah, a deck popularized by Elliot Bousseau at the Pro Tour in Ixtlan, and since then
Went 8-2.
yeah, very good result, and for him, like good for him. We saw the deck afterwards at some standard tournaments, but here it was especially well placed, just because due to unified standard, you probably want to have an energy deck, a red deck, usually Ramunaps red, and then left the third deck to be usually blue-white. And while blue-white approach was also a popular choice, which wasn't doing well, white-blue cycling was doing well, and in the hands of Piotr Glogowski, or Canister as he's known on Magic Online, when I saw him play, I had shades of him playing Lantern, just all his lands out, a full graveyard. He knew exactly what was happening. He was just so happy and in his zone.
Okay, let's get to the matchup then, because this is where it's all won and lost. It isn't about 3 decks, it's about who plays who. Maria.
All right, let's take a look in Seat A. Sam Rolfe, the national champion for Wales, on blue-black control versus Piotr Glogowski, national runner-up, white-blue cycling. What do you think here, Matej?
This is interesting because both players said that they feel confident in this matchup. I think the marquee one is definitely going to be interesting. Will Drake Haven resolve? That is the big question.
Okay, so in Seat B, Aaron Boyne, the national runner-up, is up against Gregor Kowalski with 4-color energy. Tima, 4-color. This is a match we've seen plenty of. Where do you see it?
Aaron wasn't very happy about this matchup. He said that Kowalski he's basically pre-sideboarded for this matchup with Vraskas in the main deck and Sky Sovereigns already. Aaron said that he would be very happy if he at least managed to get one game.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when you say pre-sideboarded, you don't mean literally took cards from his sideboard.
No.
You just mean that the main deck is set up already to be strong in that particular matchup. Because I know some of you are like, what does he mean pre-sideboard? Okay, and then Pip Griffiths against Radek. What does the Desert Red Ramunap Red look like?
The Welsh are very confident in this one. They chose Desert Red because they felt it would be good against the Ramunap Red decks, and they think they can take it 2-0.
Okay, there we go.
All right, well, the players are ready, so let's head down to the feature match area for round 2 here in the World Magic Cup.